So we are going live in a second. Oh, yes, we are. I think we are alive now. Oh, we are missing one person.
She will come.
Okay. So should I turn on our Zoom to the internet so that they can see us?
Sure.
You look great, Kevin.
So I think now the internet is seeing us. Um, I don't know who if there's any person watching though.
Let me check if I can put mine. If you can see something. Oh, no battery.
Ah, Natasha is coming in late.
Yeah, morning traffic in Vancouver.
What time is it over there?
Oh, good question.
Looks like it's noonish.
What's your time, Christine?
No, that's Natasha's time. I'm looking at the
Oh, of course. Yeah.
schedule on the mural.
Okay, and you're 3 p.m. now?
I'm 2 p.m.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we can start. So we're gonna miss her from voting. Well, not voting, but the heat map for sure. So, but I think we can go on. So she doesn't know exactly when she can come, but let's just do it. So let me switch to the mural. All right. So looks like everyone have their solution sketch up. How was the exercise for you guys? Just wondering. Was it hard, difficult, easy?
This is very hard for me.
Very hard?
Very hard.
Did the... Oh, we have a visitor.
Always welcome.
Yeah.
You can vote.
Hello.
Hey, sure, why not? Physio, you have our mural link as well? Oh, you're on mute.
Hello, I just chimed in because I just saw your posting on Slack, so I just like say hello and watching how you guys are doing.
I see.
Okay.
So
Cool, thanks.
Just so you
Hey,
know,
Prizzo.
we are actually live streaming right now. So yeah, just yeah, we are just in
You're
case.
famous.
And you're more welcome to turn your camera on so the internet can see you.
I better won't do that, but I just wanted to jump in to get some 30 seconds of fame on your live stream.
Oh.
All right. So then let's begin. So the first thing I would like you guys to do, I'll give everyone a couple minutes and just read through the concepts that we have there. So just to get a rough understanding what they are. And then after that, when you guys are done, then we can go on the heat map exercise. So we use the emojis. I replace all the red dots to emojis now, if you haven't noticed. And then we
Your
can,
purpose in life.
yeah. And then we can use the emojis to create a heat map. And what I want you guys to do also when you are looking at the concept, if you have any question, then on the left side of the solution sketch, those are just color coded, so you can grab them, copy them, and then just place your questions, or if you have any comments or ideas or whatever you want to put in there, just put it around the solution sketch so we don't lose the ideas there. or questions. Is that okay? And I think I'm gonna give everyone around, let's see, 5 minutes. And if we need more time, then just let me know.
Okay, I put it on mute.
But we need someone to sing.
Do you hear the birds?
No.
No.
I remember Friso was a really good DJ. In one of the sessions, we were exchanging music.
Ah,
I
okay.
was in that session.
Actually, you got me wrong because it was Justin making the music, but I will try my best. So please go vote. Please, all the countries, place your votes right now.
Yeah, that's later this week.
Hey. We have about 1 minute left. Do we need more time?
Can you add a few more minutes? I'm just
Okay. I'm starting to hear echoes. Is everyone done? And thank you for the music.
You're very welcome.
Do we need more time? Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay, I think Fiscal maybe just put it on mute right now. Um, I mean the I think it's creating an echo for me when you play the music. I don't know why. It's weird. Are you all hearing me okay though?
Unmute, yes.
Okay. I can never tell.
Yes.
Okay, then let's move on. I will give everyone 3 minutes and we can put on the um, use the voting dots and put your create like a heat map. So which area or which idea or part of the idea that you think is attractive or it can solve our problem, then you just put your emoji or the voting dots on it. And then from there we can create a heat map together. And it doesn't matter how many dots you want to put in a certain area. And if you think like one thing is super interesting, you can put multiple dots on it. And if you think the whole concept is very interesting, then you can place the dots on top beside the name. I think everyone understood me because I see actions already begin. I haven't even started timer yet. Great.
Oh, oh,
Uh-oh.
I think you should lock.
Yeah. I'm going to lock all the boards. And oh, now I can hear the birds.
Yay!
That means we're in the right mood.
I'm messing it up. Oh.
Okay, I think now everything is locked. I think I need an extra minute because I haven't voted yet. So, we have about 40 minutes. Okay, so that's time. Looks like Business Psychic have the most hits on the idea itself, and some around this area on design brief cookery. On the first thing about the design brief touch point navigation, and what else? The last one, which is the designer facilitating the dialogue using select a design brief recipe. As well, there's some heat going on around here in the Coco concept. Coco will automatically build up a text brief by listening. So those seem to be where the interests are mostly. So the next thing I would like to do is, besides the author of the concept, someone else present the concept, just run through the notes and tell us what how you understood the concept is. And let me see who's on the list. Christina, would you like to present the first concept?
Sure. Okay. So we've got design brief cookery, and it looks like we have a page where the client will start with the what he desires or needs through a design brief touchpoint navigator. Then when starting with the what the client desires, with what the client desires, feels, and is knowledgeable of, it prepares for the next step, which is to deepen the why. And it looks like there's some type of intuitive navigation from high level down to a more detailed level.
Mm-hmm.
Then it seems it determines what's needed. So it derives the needs through a 3 times why page, which is pre-populated. And then the user can add or delete various why answers to come to the core of their why. Then it allows the client to reflect on the 3 reasons why the solution, what they're wanting to solve, and what is the impact, which allows the designer to reframe later with the client. It also helps him to suggest recipes. Let me make sure I understood that right. Allow the designer to reframe later with the client. Also influenced recipes. Yeah, okay. So recipes start to get suggested in this step, it looks like. Then it, based on those whys, design brief recipes are included in a checklist with rich media template, but also the user reviews and appreciates, not exactly sure what that means. But in essence, this is the design brief cookbook. So it's the elements, I think. The designer then facilitates a rich dialogue using those selected design brief recipe elements, creating the conversation. And then the designer co-authors all of the rich media and blends that into a brief on a canvas, which ends up with the final design brief template. And that's where it looks like it ends.
All clear.
Does anyone? I think I'm on mute. Does anyone have any other interpretation other than what Christina just presented? Have any other understanding from the concept?
Where is the first contact or connection with the client and the designer? Is it a network of designers, or is it can you use the recipe and go to your own contact or designer?
What do other people think?
Well, what I think, although my morale is not working at the moment, I don't know, it's just totally disconnected here. But that was still a tricky question. In this whole scenario, I started with the client side. The client has a need, uses the touchpoint wheel to specify it, and through the three whys, deepens a little bit his first pre-briefing, more or less. But once he sees the recipes for the design brief, connected to that are also subject matter experts, so UX design professionals or strategic design professionals or whatever. And actually, by selecting a recipe, he also gets offered three design experts that can facilitate the ongoing dialogue. So it's not that it might be the designer that actually is helping you out, but it is a design professional or specialist that knows how to create a design brief in that specific domain area. And so it might not be the service provider, but for sure it's a designer. And that's where the rich dialogue will happen. From the moment that the designer comes into the process, it becomes a human facilitated and led type of dialogue where the tools only help to record it.
And designers or the specialists, they can make an account, or
I have no answer to that question. I didn't go that far in the whole, let's say, modeling of relationships or business model behind it.
no problem.
I was focusing more on the recipe approach. So how can you select the right recipe through a kind of a navigation tool?
Yes.
That is different than already knowing what you want. So it also should inspire you and find a solution to deepen the why question. So to really have that why, also what Robert was addressing yesterday, to get the real business benefit also on the table of, let's say, a possible solution that's known as early as possible in the process. And therefore you also educate and guide the client so we know better. Remember the whole conversation about we know better than the client?
Mm.
Exactly.
So that's what I try to emphasize here. Although the know it better, the client knows it better, I almost allow him to state the solution, knowing that that's the wrong start. But by having him state what he wants and express a little bit why, you give him the feeling, the sensation that he is respected and also knowledgeable in what he believes is the right solution.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Good morning, Natasha.
Hey.
Sorry,
Hey,
I'm running a bit late today.
no worries. Good to see you.
I'll jump into the mural right now.
Okay. Anyone else have anything wants to add to that concept? Understood anything differently? No? And I think we'll give Natasha maybe a couple minutes to just look through the mirror and get settled down.
Sure.
Yeah,
Do we take a break then of 5 minutes?
sure.
Let's give it 5 minutes and then we can have coffee or tea.
Or beer.
Actually, I'm eating.
I was just posting uh, a, a posting to say that we are on live now on Twitter, and then I noticed that I was like streaming that window out. So
Oh,
people
oops.
were like seeing me posting message. That means we are doing audio. And Natasha, if since you already missed the heat map exercise, you can still do it right now. So yeah,
Okay.
anything that you see interesting, any part or uh, yeah, if it's a particular part, then just put the red dot on the part itself. If it's the whole
Okay.
concept, then put it beside the name itself.
Okay.
Oh, I like the birds.
I don't know why, but I have something with birds. I don't have something with birds, but apparently I do because in our L14 sprint we use an owl. I have birds
Oh,
over
right.
there, and I'm coming up with a parrot. It's coincidence.
But those are not your own birds, right? They're just like running around in the
No,
garden,
they're
right?
outside. Yeah,
Okay, but they're really loud.
yeah, they are. Little brats. I like them.
Hmm.
There are a lot of squirrels here also, and they walk
Squirrels.
over the roof. That makes an annoying sound, especially at night.
But you live in the countryside?
I live. I'm Dutch. I have been Dutch. I have an English father and a Dutch mother, and I have a Belgian wife. And I just live over the border in Belgium, and I'm renovating in a house. So for now, I'm living in with my parents-in-law, and they live in the woods.
I
So that's
see. Cool. You have about 30 seconds left, Natasha. Is that enough, or
Okay.
you need more
I
time?
will just, I'm going to copy and paste some of these.
Let me know when you are done.
Okay, sorry, I'm just reading
That's
still.
fine.
This one.
And is everyone else back? I see Christina. I guess Jerome is still away.
Just want to read this one again. I did vote on some aspects of some, but I haven't. Okay. I have a pretty good idea of the different suggestions, I think.
Okay. Well, we were just in the progress of presenting the first concept. Actually, we just finished presenting the first concept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
The
as long as you don't
design
have,
brief cookery?
sorry?
The design brief cookery?
Yes, exactly. So if you have any extra thoughts that you want to add to that, you can do now. Otherwise, we will move on to the next one.
I was curious what the golden circle method note card is about.
Does anyone know
That's,
about it?
It's a method of Simon Sinek, and it's a way to get
oh, the
real
why.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that model. I use that a lot in my own practices.
Yeah.
And it simplifies conversations a lot.
Yeah. I keep meaning to read his book. It's been on my list for a while.
You don't need to read the whole book for it.
Yeah. That's I think why I keep not picking that one when I
We're watching soccer at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But,
Cool.
guys, is your morale also very unstable? Mine just gets out. Everything is stable, the rest, the video chat and everything, but the morale just keeps...
Seems fine to me.
Okay, then
It's okay on my end.
Okay.
Same here.
Okay. Then who wants to present the second concept? Volunteer?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Business psychic. Question to debrief as a team service. I see a landing page, business with a link to I'm guessing the client and the designer. We facilitate workshops around the world and remotely to align your business goals with the right design needs. A facilitation service that can run workshops for business owners and clients to uncover their design needs. So I like the uncover part. So it's about revealing the real needs for your design. A filtering system that now is down to the best workshops to run. So now I'm seeing a platform or a landing page that gives me some workshops to get the right design needs, to uncover the right design needs. So it gives me the tools to get to the right conclusion what I need. by filtering it, I get suggested workshops, a filtering system that adjusts limitation of the types of workshops. I'm quite interested in how that would work from filtering to a suggested workshop. Um, the client chooses a workshop according to the difficulty of people and time needed, and how efficient the risk festival it will be. The question here is if the client knows what the difficulty level is and how much time he knows is needed. The client can read more about the workshop when clicking on it. I really like the workshop part because that gives you the opportunity to offer something and give them a real good insight back, and that's something worth. And the benefit, I think, has to be explained over here. Choose to run remotely or in person. Well, that gives me a good choice in as well as time as in localization. If I'm far away or I don't have the opportunity to travel for meetings, this would give me a good opportunity to do the in-person part. Either get a verified qualified facilitator network nearby or arrange to travel. Exactly. That's a good one. Book directly or contacts to get more details. Addressing the real business needs with a workshop to ensure success in design service. Addressing the real business needs with a workshop. Yeah, okay, so you book and you get a workshop and they will really uncover, a specialist will help you uncover the real needs you have. After the workshops, we will provide the client a design brief based on finding in a language that the designers can understand. So that's a big plus that helps the client who doesn't know what to need. There's a service that can help them get the right briefing to the right persons. Um, it's actually kind of a workshop shop.
Workshop, shop.
Workshop.
Exactly.
The what will workshop?
And does anyone have any other interpretation other than what Ian presented or comment? There's a question there. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I find interesting is how a client can select the right workshop that's offered to him in all the varieties. And at the end of the process, can just rely on that he's ignorant and it doesn't understand design and will get a good design brief. So I have a feeling that we always struggle in any scenario in is how design illiterate or literate is the client side in this, and do we help to make a decision for him, or is the system facilitating that, or is he totally capable of making a decision that in the end needs to drive a result? In this case, a good design brief. But that was more a thought that came to mind when I read it.
But it looks like that on top there's like this filter. So based on what their business goal is and I guess their business model, it will kind of filter out what kind of workshops can run to solve that problem or um, to drive the result, I guess.
Yeah, so the system is actually it has a quite a same concept as the design brief cookery. It makes a recipe based on what you filter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is if there could be more, let's say, unstructured information in the process that helps to
Yeah.
make that selection. But yeah,
But in the end, I mean, there is also like the contact um, thing, right? So yeah, here, so it says book directly or contact to get more details. So I
yeah,
guess when the user is not sure if he or she is choosing the right workshop, can always just contact someone.
Yeah, and that's really a key feature here because there will be clients who don't know what workshop to choose,
Yeah.
and then you offer them to help them with them. So you really explain and sell your feature of booking consults to get the real question and a good briefing.
And I guess like can also add more details when they click on each workshop and give them a better understanding what it is.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I like the concept.
Anyone else want to add anything? Understood anything differently? There's a question. So design brief as a team service.
Yeah, I added that question, but I think I need to delete it. I saw the answer somewhere in the whole flow now, so
Mm.
I haven't read it good enough. So you can unlock it and
So
delete it if you want.
just to make sure I'm understanding this flow, there's no like real human interaction unless you hit the contact button. Is that correct? It's just filters and selections.
So I think the concept itself is all about human interaction. It, but the interface, like I'm assuming like this is just like an interface that
Right.
brings you to the human interaction.
Right, but like when they're when you're looking at the types of sprints um, or workshops, you're the the user is essentially just reading something or watching a video or something like that to understand what those workshops are made of. It's not an interaction with a live person. Is that correct?
That's a good question. Is it a remote workshop with live people remotely or on site, or is it an exercise they can do themselves?
I think that's even a step further. I think what Christina means is if you take the lighting design workshop, for instance, before you make the decision, you have, let's say, supporting information to make your decision for that workshop. So a video introduction or a recipe or a workshop agenda, goals and objectives, so that you can select the right workshop. I think that's what she means. Whether you do it virtually or locally, I think is maybe one depending on the criteria and the context that you are. Can you bring people together? Yes or no? Do you want to do it remotely because you don't want to do it yourself? That's how I read it. Because the remotely and in person, that's
Mm.
only on the screen number
Yeah,
3 and not on 2.
yeah. Yeah, it's my understanding too. So I don't think it's teaching you how to run the workshop. I guess it also says on the top too. So it's like we facilitate the workshops, right? So
Yeah, indeed.
yeah.
What I like about this, it has so much more potential than just for a design brief. Forget about the design brief at the end.
Right. Right. It's
uh,
yeah. You
I
get a design brief out of it, but you actually get a really work.
I
You know,
totally agree on that
workshop.
one. A design doing a design sprint is the best briefing you can get as a result.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably it is. And
That's interesting. We actually never considered whether we needed a design brief.
That's why we are running a design sprint to find that out, right?
let's kill this sprint.
All right.
I have something to add later in the conversation, not now, but let's vote first. But I'm really positive about this scenario for various reasons.
Okay. All right. Should we move on? Or anyway, yeah,
Sure.
I can do the next one if you want.
sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so the Design Collective, it says they create custom design briefs for your ideas. And so it looks like it's kind of a flow.
Hey,
And
Robert.
oh,
Hi.
hey,
Wait a minute.
lots of people joining. So it starts with like you have an idea, but you want expert guidance. So then you go, you have a basic form where you answer a few sort of basic identifiers like industry, needs, desires, purpose, why, expected outcome. and this is for somebody who's on the beginner level who wants guidance all the way through. And then there's the person, on the other hand, who has a pretty good idea of what needs and what's needed and will need minimal guidance. So that's over on the right. And I'm not sure if one follows two, or I'm not sure if three is after two in this scenario, but in any event, if you are a beginner, you can have 3 recommended designers for you. And if you kind of know what you want, then you give as much detail as possible. And that will give them like a sense of certainty for the needs in terms of the guidance. And then out of that comes the questions that are remaining, and or the complete details are understood. There's nothing further to be clarified. So that's on the intermediate side. And then it looks like the flow continues down. I'm not sure if these are screens or not. It could just be like a logical sort of breadcrumbs of the experience. Meet your recommended designers for best fit and comfort level. So there's the 3 that were recommended, and then the client selects one, or maybe orders in preference based on availability. So they could have like a rating of 1, 2, 3, to which one's the best fit. And then they do a video conference with the 3 recommended designers. And then based on that, they go into separate paths. Like if they were a beginner or an intermediate is what I understand. So if they were a beginner, then the first design session, the designer guides the client for understanding and essentially gets the info that was needed in the design form that the advanced person filled out. Or if they were the advanced person, then it's already known. And so the designer reviews it in session 1 and schedules that. So then all of this leads to the designer preparing a recipe. And it's prepared. Session number 1 is where they present and discuss the recipes, given all the information that was provided. Then the next session is presenting layout of info with a stylistic feel. And these are limited time review sessions. And then the third session is a final review, and the last is a delivery, or the fourth is a delivery. And that's where the payment and that kind of thing gets done, it looks like. Did I leave anything out?
Do you think the what do you think the final delivery is?
I would guess it's a design brief, because at the very top it says we create custom design briefs for your ideas.
Mm.
So I would guess it's a custom design brief.
Anyone understood anything differently?
I'm guessing the same.
That's how I understood it.
Okay.
Although, like, session number 2 does say that they present a layout of info with stylistic feel, which almost sounds like a wireframe. So,
Yeah.
but
I interpreted it as a fancy briefing.
That's how it is.
But the funny thing, the good thing here is here you pay for your brief. And a lot of clients
are not willing to pay.
No, they don't even know the outcome. And I think it's worth the money, absolutely. But normally a designer would put that in the briefing time and the project management in the design hours, or
but directly or indirectly, it's always being paid for it, because then it's in the tariff.
Anyone else have anything to add? Or understood the concept differently?
Well, I initially, when I read it for the first time, I thought it was more a scenario to select the right designer. and only later as a deliverable, so that that designer that was selected helps to develop the design brief, which I think is quite common practice. The only thing is, I think there's a lot of emphasis in the beginning on finding the right designer, whereas like, the value add is more in the tail of this process, coming together to the right design brief and being paid for it. I think that's important. So you have a transaction-based model. I think that's what Ian also said. I think that that's a very positive side of here. Um, you almost have to say you only get the design brief if you've paid.
Hmm.
In the virtual world, I think it's still a challenge, by the way, to get paid before you hand over the deliverables. On the other hand, you don't hand them over if you're not paid. That's also something. But if you do it in a collaborative way, it's a difficult model.
I think there's some models out there too, though. Like I could see this where, once you have kind of you've gotten comfortable with the designer, you can, maybe there's, pay, a, a percentage of the fee, and have stages of comfort. But I do think that for designers, there's a lot of work that goes into a brief, and there's a lot of value there. And for me, if you're, if you have done the work to understand it and put the brief together and don't get the work, then the designer kind of gets screwed in that scenario.
A lot of people get screwed in this profession.
I know. I know.
That's why we're here to try to solve that problem.
We have to stop the abuse one way or another. This team has got to find the solution. We can't go on anymore. Just can't.
Okay, should we move on? Are we good? Okay. Next
Oh, can I just add one quick thing though? I was just going to say that the design sessions maybe could be designed in a way that, especially because they are via video conference, I assume, based on the first one happening via video conference. So maybe instead of having like a preview of the design brief where someone could just like copy and paste it into their own document and make off with it without paying, you could just have it by video in a conversation format so that it's not,
Sure.
Like, yeah. Anyways, that was it.
Sure.
A bit early to talk about technical solutions.
Okay. Then Coco, who wants to present that? It's a long text reading.
I should be able to do that, although it might not be easy. Coco is not a parrot. Coco is an abbreviation, I've learned, and I have to zoom in really far to read it, so I'll leave it all up to you. Contact, copy, there's more in that. So probably that's where the branding is going to happen. It's to create the right context, the copy, construct, and connect, communicate, let's say, in the end, what a design brief is.
I'm following you on Miro, so if you can zoom in
I'll
and
try.
out, yeah.
I'll try, but it's really slow on my side.
Okay.
But what I understand is that it's a system that is intelligent enough to analyze voice, and you see that in a few steps. So you have an object in the room that is recording the conversation between the client or a contractor, not necessarily involving a designer. There it is, our green piece of hardware. That interviewed is probably staged by the design contractor. The only thing is what I do not totally understand is the card model that recognized by Coco. So I can't explain that. I only see that there is a card involved. I think that's a physical object that is supporting the conversation. Um, but that's all that I understand from here. Coco as a system, intelligent system, will build up the brief by all the information that he picks up and shares that back with the team, the virtual team, the client. But he can also connect, let's say, the initiative to more detailed specialists who can review what this Coco solution has pre-populated with information and can actually enrich it, add more questions that need further conversation. Coco is also managing the workflow, so he will notify the client to do more or less information, feed the system with more insights or business needs. Could be in text, could be a voicemail, when there is time available. It can be offline, so it's rich data that will be analyzed, but it is, let's say, collected offline. There's no meeting needed for that. But that information that is being collected can then be shared back into the system, is stored there, but it can also be processed again and fed back to the various stakeholders, the client, or the team members that are involved in preparing this design brief, or actually supporting the design later. So this type of system-supported interaction by Coco is further enriching the whole briefing process. And there's no, let's say, other individual involved as the middleman in here, because that's what the author of this scenario likes to eliminate in the industry. By keeping everything central in the cloud, most likely, it is always available, it is always accessible, anytime, any place. You need hardware for it, so a system, a dashboard, speaker, apps, and cards. Still very curious to hear what those cards are later on. Let me go back a little bit up in the scenario, see what it's over there. I think here's some listing of what type of functionalities are needed in there. Speech to text, how to get data to the right stakeholders. By not having a middleman like a design project manager or an account manager, you don't have any misinterpretation of information. It can also help, but it could also cause misinterpretation. So information from the client is directly landing on the desk or in the process of the designer or the design team. It probably is supported by a dashboard that shows the workflow, the stakeholders involved, the level of data that's available, the quality, and what is here at the bottom. AI will recognize based on big data which strategy and disciplines are needed in what order, and it will give options who you need. So it probably is also helping you to shape the project, the design project, to deliver also a good ending, a good result on the basis of a design brief. Sounds like a familiar scenario a little bit. I think I've heard it somewhere in April before. It's only executed in a total different way, but the same technologies and conventions are being used here, and that's nice to see. So compliments to the author.
Yeah, it was interesting for me to see that too. Seems like a lot of this AI technology are emerging from a lot of our design sprints that we have
Yeah,
been.
what I had a very interesting conversation with a company that actually that I could actually vet the ID to the previous ID, and they actually question whether there is already sufficient data available that can be used by AI to really come up with intelligent content and intelligent recommendations. Definitely, if you have to do design briefs, you probably tens of thousands of design brief processes before an AI system can give you relevant feedback and relevant input in that process for the future. So it needs a lot of learning before it really can become active. But that's just the feedback that I have on the AI topic.
I agree on that. That machine learning that needs time and needs a lot of data.
Yeah, and as much as we believe that the whole world is centered around design, I don't think there's that much data available yet or can be generated that's explicit enough to learn. So I think that will be a challenge with any AI solution in this space. So I think the human intervention is still a critical part here.
It needs both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
just out of curiosity, I don't mean to divert, but how did you come up with the name Coco?
The name Coco.
Yeah.
Well, as a
it is your scenario.
No, I think this specific person did not have a lot of time to to manage to get something together. But it first started with what do I don't like to do, what cost me a lot of time and money, and also in my business as well for me as the client. So I was looking at the we and trying to dissect that sentence. Who are we helping? Quality communication. But what is communication? And that it's always first a salesman or account manager who comes in contact with a client and speaks with him. And the empathy and what is spoken is really an important first step in having a goodwill and what they really mean. And it's quite a loss and a miscommunication if that salesperson goes to the right designer and try to explain the same story. So I was thinking about how can I capture all those information from first line, and that's always the client, and guide him with the right experts through any way of communication. And so it's also trustworthy and always directly from the client and the right designer. And that came to me that I need something else, someone else who is listening and repeat like the listening techniques, paraphrasing, and try to understand what you mean. So repeat actually what the client says, and that came to me like communication, repeat. I'm hearing birds in the background, so a parrot repeats and copies what you say. So that's why I came with the parrot, and then the Coco, the name Coco. Well, it's if you see the first words with connecting, copying, constructing, communicating, it all starts with COCO. It's all connecting. It's all COCO, and it's a parrot's name, Coco.
Mm.
That all came together, so that's why I came. I don't know why. I'm just a little bit crazy.
Because over in America, we have someone named Conan O'Brien that also uses the nickname Coco. So when I said it, I thought he had red hair and he was a parrot. So I thought
Great. You should be
but
my
your
ambassador.
explanation was much more in depth and much more detailed around the solution. That my crazy banter about like a comedian shouldn't even be wasn't even part of the equation. So that's
Nice.
Cool. And anyone want to add anything or have any other interpretation?
Well, it's difficult to see, but of to explain now. But if in your fine time you can, there are some links in the left side, speech notes and method kit, and that method kit explains the card system, and they even the speaker or the cards, they don't have to be hardware products or something you need. It could also be everything could be digital in a dashboard or using your iPhone, put it down, enter or start up Coco, and the cards is just a guidance through simple for the client to have a step-by-step guidance with interview questions to uncover the real needs of the client.
Mm.
Nice. Is it an existing?
Yeah, it's an. Am I live? Yeah. It's actually a system to facilitate online chats on websites. So
Yeah.
it's echoing conversations and rerouting conversations as well. And while you're just setting on the app, I was just thinking about I'm having that on my websites. It's called Talk To. So
Okay.
you talk to each other, and it's a little bit in the same type of concept that you said, having a chatbot. This is a chatbot for customer service.
Mm.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to building a briefing, but it always has to be on a central place, and I'm letting the communication always go through the specialist and the client because the other person really can't explain the real needs than the expert himself and the client himself. So I want to combine those as close as much together, and I want to use Coco as the facilitator to make that as easy as possible. So you don't have to spend multiple meetings with each expert or all of them at the same times because that's too much for the client, or even from far away or time don't having it's the localization that's it's a mess. or not possible. So I just like having an app and a notification. He just can speak it in his phone. I mean this, or I try to mean that, and it will automatically put it in text and notify the expert with the right information. And it can go up and down, and everybody can see the complete briefing building up and put it in the right order so that product can be made.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Me too.
Okay, then shall we? I think I'm the only person who hasn't presented yet. Or does anyone else want to present that one? Anyone else want to give it a try?
Friso, this can be your moment of fame.
Yes, if he's, I don't know if he's still there. Are you there? No. Robert, would you like to present that one?
Hang on. Ba-ba-ba. Which one am I presenting? Delight?
Yes.
Delight. What's the thing that reminded me of? Anyone ever heard of the song "Groove Is in the Heart"? No. Wow. Sorry. Wow, I dated myself pretty good. Can't believe no one knows that song at all. All right. So this one's called Delight. It looks like it's a man at a cube, and it looks like it's basically saying it's stuck. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can kind of take a better look. Let's unbox Heart. Let's unbox Hunt. It's a cube that can sit in your workspace and ultimately allows for interactivity. So the idea being that there is something on the person's desk that they can interact with. The product delights the client by anchoring to their current rich workspace in the 3D non-digital sense first. And it gives them something to hold on to throughout the process. The eyes outside the office environment show the designer's presence from afar in the dilemma of the client. So, actually, I'm not sure. The content of the cube, thinking out of there you go. The content of the cube is based on the client experience of creating a database, searching for answers and the people to help them with getting to a decision. So it kind of feels like this is it's a kind of an intermediary, but it's more of a it's I don't know. It sense maybe I'm missing a vital piece of this, but it feels like it's trying to take in the environmental stimuli as well as the thinking around the project itself, or what they're corresponding to, or that it takes in different types of inputs from the person's environment and somehow informs the person that has the cube. Looks like it says the key interaction. Oh, this is locked. Hang on. I gotta unlock this because I can't read. Oh, I can't unlock it because the facilitator is locked. Oh, facilitator, would you mind unlocking that little blue sticky that's right to the right there so I can read the entire sticky?
There.
Facilitator, oh, facilitator. Thank you. A key interaction is unfolding a cube like Buckminster Fuller's Dymaxion globe. The unfolding, there you go, exactly, is a metaphor and literal experience. Each square is a step in the process to understanding the problems, the client, and the possibilities. Okay, so this is what's interesting is that up here, I almost thought this cube was meant to be something electronic. I didn't necessarily think it was something that it made me think it was I'm confused because the way this is presenting itself, it makes it feel like a physical object, but and then it starts in a non-digital sense, and then it stays physical here, but then it goes into like a physical form of an interactive unfolding. The unfolding is a metaphor and little experience. Each square is a step in the process to understand the problem of the client and the possibilities. But from my perspective, I'm unsure how this is generated. I'm assuming that based on the inputs that it gets, that it's going to be processing a lot of the possibilities and putting them in there. I don't understand if this is actual digital paper or if it's regular paper. On each square, there's an opportunity to interact, a QR code that will automatically connect to the company's site, reschedule other resources in the process. Yeah, I mean, I apologize to whoever did this, but there's a gap in my understanding of the starting point and the ending point with this in terms of how this how this device or this object is actually taking in inputs and kind of bringing them together. So um, did everybody else that who didn't do this sketch, when you look at this, am I just lost? And do you kind of, in the context of what you've been doing with solution sketches, does it make sense to you?
I had trouble in understanding exactly how this one worked as well.
Me too, but it made me more intrigued what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was exactly it.
there's something matrix about this that I'm not getting. So there's something about it where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a head slap and go, oh no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But on face value, it feels like, okay, I literally expecting the guy who has dollar bill signs on his head to basically be wearing this like Oculus Rift goggles, and really he's carrying a virtual thing, and then it spills out, and each panel is interactive in that regard. So maybe it's the way that's kind of written up.
Well, I'm back now. I just missed you guys lately. What I was thinking when I saw that thing is like, really, what I have to play the music right now. It was also set here because, of course, I know the song. Wait, just like no, thank you. And that gives me music interpretation. But you will get the box right on your desk, and imagine you just like have the box and unfold it, and it gives you questions. Yeah, the
Yep.
groove is in the heart, and then it just like, as you open it, it starts with the first question, and you can go on the left side, on the right side, and it just gets you through the process of understanding what questions you might have. Let's go reflect on the golden circles we had before, and it just brings you down, and at the end it just tells you, go for a design sprint. So I think it is a physical product for me all the way through. The only question I had is like, how do I get that on the desk of a person who might have a problem? So I'm finished.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's an offline problem framework.
Mm.
I'm almost wondering
That's
if this.
right. Yeah,
I'm almost
sorry.
wondering if this is pre-made. So this literally is like something where it's fashioned for either the client or for the generic situation, and then the unfolding of the box is the typical process that normally corresponds to client designer or client team relationships. Um, I'm I think I'm stuck on the idea that this is self generating more so than that's something that's pre-made or pre-printed before it gets in front of someone. Because if it is, I almost wonder if it's just like a one and done thing.
Mm-hmm. Looking for something.
Any other comments on this one before we reveal who the person was that did it?
We are not doing that actually.
Not. All right.
But anyone else want to add anything or have any other understanding of it?
Like I said, I like the mysterious side of it, but that's more from an experience of reading it and the drawings. It made me intrigued. What is it? And I want to know more. And maybe that's also what you can actually trigger if you offer something like this to a client. Maybe more as an educational piece. So the design brief process is unfolding itself, almost literally as a learning experience for someone that is going to engage with designers soon. So more as a learning object maybe than a process object or a design brief recipe, but more like it has different sides. And actually you can use the unfolded cube on both sides. So
Mm.
that's potential as well. So there's a lot of canvas to work with if you think about it.
Right. Hey Natasha, I haven't heard you speak. What do you think about
Yeah,
this concept?
I think that it would be difficult to get it onto the desk of people. I think that, oh, I like the logo that Robert just put in there. We already have the logo. Excellent. And a lawsuit. Excellent. Yeah, I think that this is like a snapshot of the interaction, because there's some questions around how does the cube appear on their desk. Obviously, there has to be something that gets it there. And then after the cube has unfolded, what happens? What's the next step, essentially? But I think it is a physical product, which is not an electronic, what Robert was saying was super cool. But it's not a computer. It doesn't have inputs and outputs. It's just, what did you say, one and done or something like that?
A one and done kind of physical object.
Right, yeah. So I don't know exactly what one and done means, but I guess it's like that more so than a computer, which has like some inputs and a function and then a output. I think there's also still a lot of questions in my mind about this as well.
I see it as more as a giveaway or a gimmick from a designer or an agency to a client to
educate
give it away for a first contact and a workflow, how to get to a good communication with each other, and explaining them how to work and to get to a good briefing, explaining the process to a good briefing.
Yeah, like it's a communication tool that you can hold in your hand. So
yeah,
like
it's an introduction gift.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
And you don't have a step to make to remind it to go to online or advertise it. So if you have it on your desk, it's on your desk and it's in your site, and that keeps you reminding of that person. So I like that part.
As a token.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if we don't have anything else to add, that we can go on voting our final concept. What emojis would you like to use for voting? I'm thinking the fire or the heart or the thumbs up. What do you guys prefer?
I like the fire.
Okay. So bring in the fire. What color? Let's make it. What colors haven't we used yet? Orange? So, how many people are voting here? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then I'm going to duplicate 5 of them. Oops. And we can put our fire on the concept that you like the most.
So it's overall concept we like the most.
Yes.
That's a cool. What's the name of that box that you just put there, Robert?
Pandora's box.
Oh, is it Pandora's box? Okay.
I think.
Yeah, there was. Okay, so fire. We put one fire on our.
Yeah, on the
Sandy, do you want to put it on like a particular concept, or do you want to put it on any? They have the option of doing it on a concept or just part of a concept.
Let's just roll on the concept first.
Okay.
And see how that goes.
Okay.
I love how we're all holding our fire back.
Yeah, nobody's putting it on anything. How about when you guys are ready, I'm gonna count down 2, 3, and then we can all do it together.
I can't find my flame. I can't find mine.
Yeah, what happened to yours? Oh, someone stole mine. Wait, I'm gonna duplicate another one. Oh, we have. Okay. So, ready? 1, 2, 3. What? You're not.
you doing?
Uh,
Are we all done? What is that one in between?
I wanted to do that too. This one needs to be moved.
Yes. Okay.
Which one?
Now we have the business sidekick as the top order solution. And now I'm bringing in a thumbs up icon, which we can vote on particular parts that we would like to also take into account when we do our prototyping. Wait a moment, copying. Everyone just grab yours first so we know that you have yours.
to be clear, now we're putting it on a feature.
Yeah, so any feature that you like the most, it can be also in the winning concept, or it can be any concept that is not voted as the top voted solution. Just any parts that particular you think is cool that maybe we can also incorporate in our prototype. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. And are you guys ready? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Great. Ian? Sure?
No.
No. Oh, someone stole mine again. I'm gonna take this one. So,
Mine.
oh,
I'll take this one. Wait, is
wait.
there?
That's mine. Stay off.
I'm grabbing mine.
Robert.
This okay. Okay.
All right, so let's just vote on one part that you really like. Again, it doesn't have to be in the winning concept. It can be any other one as well.
I don't know. It's supposed to be a feature
Any
or something?
part, any concept, any idea, any particular thing that you think maybe it should also help when we prototype this thing.
I need like 4 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh, the purple one is like undecided.
That's me. I changed the color.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I feel indecisive with my purple thumb. Sorry, I know it's not the biggest decision in the world, but there we go.
Okay.
Oh, now the purple doesn't look very good. Change it. There we go.
Cool. All right. So we have decided on what concept we are going to prototype, so which is the business sidekick. And then we who did that? And then we can also think of the I can't talk.
There you go.
Oh.
That's way too big. Those are meant to be much smaller. Okay, I'll let you go. Go ahead, Sandy.
Okay. Yeah. So now we have the business psychic as the winning concept. So this is the one that we are going to use as the main base for our prototype. And then we can also consider the parts that have the thumbs up on and see if we can incorporate also in our prototype. Is that cool for everyone? Sounds good? All right. We have around 30 minutes left. And there are two things that we can do. The first one, we can try to come up with a name of our product. And the next one that we can also do is create our P-story flow, which can help with the prototyping process. Which one maybe you guys have any preference? Or Robert, do you have any suggestion?
Say it one more time.
So we have two choices. We have 30 minutes left, and I'm not 100% sure if we can go through the whole uh, uh, story flow exercise in 30 minutes. But I think product naming is a little bit too short. So I'm not quite sure which one we should go forward.
I
Um,
thought they were both offline, no? They say offline.
We can change that.
Natasha, are you eager to get out of here? Are you saying you want to quit early? Are you done?
I'm a quitter. That's what it is. I also I also have a question, but I'll let you finish your
No,
idea,
please go
your
ahead.
planning. I was curious about like, and this is coming even from like previous sprints where like when we like I don't totally see how to draw together the specific pieces. And so like we have the sprint questions, we have the how might we have the goal, and then we have like fires and thumbs up of different sections. And like essentially how do we know what to prioritize um, or how do we know what answers the how might we, like for example the how might we question is really about communication for a
Mhm.
successful design brief.
Mhm.
And so should we identify what does that the best and then like draw that forward if like of the thumbs and fires and that kind of thing,
So
or
are you asking how do we infer from the activity that we just did from the solution sketch into the storyboard?
essentially, yeah.
Okay, so one thing to kind of keep in mind before you go in there is to take a look just at the results. So everyone feel kind of looks like that business psychic is what you're moving forward with.
Yeah.
It's safe to assume that those three particular panels are kind of a baseline or at least like a fundamental starting point.
Okay.
Then when people that put kind of thumbs up are things you could potentially incorporate into the solution, into the flow, whether it's over here on the designs brief cookery, or it's down here for the delight in terms of the box, and maybe some artifacts that come from this. But it's going to be your own interpretation of what of value comes from each of those sections.
Okay.
Then when you go down to the pre-storyboarding flow down here, um, basically, as Sandy's kind of pointed out, you can start from a first action step on the map as a starting point, and you probably want to go back to the solution sketch to see the starting point that this kind of correlates to, and see if there's one that makes sense to you where you can make those two connect. So basically, it's starting from what you thought was the central point of focus for the sprint the entire time, and mapping that back to the storyboard that was just voted on, see if there's a correlation, and basically incorporating it into this step. Then thinking about that and the storyboard, and sometimes it helps to kind of bring the storyboard solution down here, like right above where this is, so you know you're concentrating on that, writing out the steps that correlate that are in line with um, that storyboard like kind of flow, all the way into a last action step that would potentially answer one of these three sprint questions. Does that make sense in terms of how I'm mapping not only the activity of the art of the exercise we just did with the solution sketch and what you're meant to do here in the storyboard?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense in terms of the mapping. Why is step 6 on the map? Why is it the sprint question and not the how might we question?
Primarily because that's why you're getting together to do this sprint in the first place. The how might
Okay.
we like a postulating on the potential solution. But the sprint
Okay.
question that you ultimately want to answer by going through all of these exercises. So as long as it seems those sprint questions, when you first had them in Monday, you're going to be answering them. You know, can we have the clients to believe we know better than them? or how can we do something better than what today is a normal business practice. If you think that the solution that you're driving towards will answer one of those three, then that's
Mhm.
kind of where you want to be with that one.
Okay.
The how might we speculate on the solution, but they tend to inform the solution portion of the design sprint more so than the actual storyboard.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
But Sandy, I would recommend doing this, the storyboard part, because this is going to speak to an offline activity around kind of going through the natural motions after the storyboard is done of marking the panels, figuring out where things go, and doing a lot of offline activities in that regard. So that when you meet tomorrow, it's going to be less about constructing the panels and reacting to how people have constructed them. Meaning that after you do this, everyone on the call is going to have at least one panel that they're
Mm.
going to be responsible for.
Yeah.
That's going to incorporate what's done in the storyboard, and then the designers that are on the call are essentially going to take over at that point on tomorrow and say, okay, does this look like it has a unified vision? Does it seem to flow from beginning to end? And whoever has the assigned panel is going to work with that designer on the call and say, I think you should probably think about this. Or the person that did the panel can go back to the designer and say, well, what about this? And it starts a collective conversation around the overall design, the effects, the experience, the visual acuity of things, and it gets people more involved in the design. It's less of a handoff to the designers and developers when you do it that way.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I prefer as well, but I'm just worried that we cannot go through the whole exercise in 25 minutes because we
Let's give it a shot.
okay.
I think we can do it.
Sure. All right. Then is that clear what we need to do after Robert already explained everything? Or does anyone still need more explanation?
And do we have rows for everybody? We have 5 rows here, but how many people are participating on the call?
With or without you?
I'm not going to be a part of it.
That's correct. We were 5.
Okay. Then, yeah, I think if everybody's clear on what needs to be done here, then you could just go at it. Give everybody about, what, start with 10 minutes, and if people need extra time, they can. But I would really just don't try to reinvent the wheel. Take the solution sketch that's up here, business psychic, put it right below, above the number 3 here in terms of the part here, so that
Yes.
everyone's looking at the same solution sketch.
I'm
But
going to
if they have to go back to the other solution sketches for those neat little bits that people put thumbs up on that you want to incorporate, then do that. But this is the time where you're really reapplying all the work that you've done in the previous activities and putting them into the storyboard.
yeah, I'm going to copy that.
And the steps, like first steps from our map, the ones that are like have a border are the ones that we voted on. Is that right?
That's the first steps from the map. So something that relates to the target that was in whatever it was in that map. That should be the whatever the target is should be the starting point, ideally. Or if
So
there's some, go ahead.
like I was just wondering what the border means on some of them. I think we put the border because they won the vote, or should we
Yeah,
just ignore the border?
those were the top voted.
Okay, so it's those two with the border then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are actually, one of those should essentially be step number 1.
Yep. Ideally, they should be.
Okay.
But look to the solution sketch and see if one of them seems to make sense as a starting point when you look at that's because the business cycle one it really is going to speak 2 through 5, right? One of them is going to be an extra step that you can incorporate from another part of the solution sketches if you want to, but 2 through 5 should literally be written out based on the solution sketch above. Then on where this ends or where it could potentially end is where you answer one of these spring questions or maybe like one of the ones that you think would work.
Got it.
Yeah, but there isn't much inference to this.
Ian, I think it's locked, the sprint questions there. I saw you trying to I was trying to select them as well. I don't know if Sandy can unlock it.
I ungroup them now. Maybe that works. Yeah, try it now.
Okay, thanks.
How's everyone doing? Need more time or?
I need a little more time.
Few minutes.
Okay. Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Then we can present our flows. First one, flow number
So
one.
first one is they see the ad on LinkedIn, which gives them a quiz. The ad seems like it pertains to their problem, so they do the quiz, and then after clicking the ad and getting the quiz results, the client sees the facilitation as the solution for what they propose. They self-identify their business type, their goals, and their model, like the top of the business psychic flow. And then they go on to read the workshop descriptions, and understand the benefits and the deliverables to their business. So then they send the workshop info link to their boss or their team, and they recommend it and ask for either approval or consensus. And so the client knows that they need the workshop, and then they book it, which answers the question of can we address people who don't know about design enough to know they need it.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
Does that mean that the result of the quiz is always that the client needs a workshop?
Definitely. Especially for advertising costs.
Right. Anyone else? Then flow number two.
Yes. Started with the same thing, but I like the first one better actually from Natasha, because I just triggered it as an quiz, and by doing the quiz, it would show a showcase about do you really know your design needs, the question behind the question. It goes to a page and sees the results of the quiz, and therefore learn about the importance of a real business need. And you can see some case studies to really give them that insight. and then afterwards the designer reacts on that and enters its information in the filtering system that discovering their goals and needs. The system consults on those information with specific workshops and to get the briefing right with the right results. And those workshops are available in different ways, so on site or remotely, and maybe different price ranges, and you can book them. Not satisfies money back guarantee, and that comes to the conclusion that how can we do something better than that we do in a normal business practice? So try something else like a workshop and discover that it's a better way to brief somebody than they normally do.
Questions? All clear? Great. Floor number 3.
3 starts at the same location, sees an ad, does the quiz, inputs number of people and time available, receives recommended workshop types and they review those. Then decision needs to be made if they want to do a remote workshop or an in-person workshop, and that's based on price, location, availability, and then they make contact to get any unanswered questions answered, and then once they have all their questions answered, they book a workshop, and that aligns to the can we address clients who don't know about design enough to know they need it.
Questions? Okay, then I'll go next. So mine is show number 4, and kind of starting on the same place without the crystal, just a LinkedIn ad, and then user is interested, and then they set the business filter, which is what we have in the solution sketch, talking about the business types and business goals and etc. Then step number 3, suggested workshop came up. So it come up on the screen, and then use the filter to filter out what workshop is more suitable in terms of time and available number of people. Then step number 4 then is click on the workshop card and learn more about the workshop and see understand what the benefits and also what the outcome is, how it benefits the business itself or the decision itself. And then step number 5 selects the select either it's a remote or in-person workshop. And number 6 then book the workshop. And yeah. Any questions? Then next one.
Well, mine doesn't start with the ad on LinkedIn. Mine starts with a project overview that a project manager or an account manager actually has in front of him. He or she then uses a kind of a navigator tool to specify the project needs, the business type, the business models, and the reasons why. So to have a first part of the briefing process in flow. Then the system suggests different matching workshop types that helps to support in developing the process further. And each of those workshops has a recipe attached to it. And the recipe can be the agenda, the skills related, the types of preparations needed, maybe templates that are available. Then for each recipe, 2 scenarios are being offered by the system, a virtual scenario and a physical scenario, an on-site scenario. So you see the differences in approaching it in a different way as a customer. Then you select one or the other, and then a design brief configurator is used to generate the proposal for the workshop, the planning, the expert needs, and also a quote, of course. The booking step I forgot, by accident. And of course, then the result is that there is an expert facilitated design workshop that uses the workshop recipe and a digital canvas. And what I try to express here is that this is doing it differently than probably how 80% of the design projects are starting, because it's a designer in a one-on-one conversation with a client.
Mhm. Okay. Questions?
You're on mute, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody's on mute.
It's awkward silence.
The sound of silence.
Pondering what they were just heard, like,
Questions?
No, all clear.
Great. Let's do a voting section, and we pick our flow for prototype. We
place your bets. Which one? Which one's it going to be? Now, to be clear, Sandy, we're only voting on one row, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you only get one vote this time.
Who's the decider for this one?
Not me this time.
That's too hard.
You don't want to be the statesman again? Not the.
Yeah, then I shouldn't vote.
You have to vote. Everyone votes, except for me.
At what level are you voting?
The very first card. So basically, like on the card
The
that
scenario.
yeah, that's the whole scenario. But you put your vote on the card on column 1 that has a border on it. You got 1 minute.
30 seconds.
We can do this.
Pressure.
Everyone is
Like this?
undecided except Natasha and me.
I haven't decided.
Yeah, there's 5 people that have it.
And now my mural just crapped out. I don't know.
saw
So
that.
I'm glad I decided.
You decided to leave. You didn't like anything.
They're so alike. They're so
That's the
alike.
theme today, isn't it, Robert? Oh no, it gave me the option to vote again.
Oh.
You
I'll
didn't
just-
give it 1 votes.
Yeah, I'll just vote the same one as before.
Oh, you're stacked on the deck.
Yep.
You're doubling down now so you could quit later.
Exactly.
And
Only-
Ian,
only
you're
for
faster
some
this
you're
time.
on the left.
Yay.
Now it's just Frisso.
Okay, that's it. I'm gonna end the
This one's
voting
not
section.
voting?
Sorry?
Okay.
I was just observing.
He's not voting?
Who?
Frisso's not voting.
No, he's not.
Okay, got it.
And the result is
Yeah.
the last
Which
one.
is it?
The last one. So,
There you go.
oh. Now we are expecting the prototype to be done tomorrow.
So before everyone leaves and goes to call, this is the point where you adopt one of these steps. So you're not expected to have something designed perfect, but what you are going to be concentrating on is the information architecture, meaning how the page could be constructed. The pages are going to be dissimilar when you kind of come together tomorrow, but it'll be fairly easy for the designer to kind of look at everything and say, okay, take that element and put it across all the pages, take that element and put it all across all the pages. But everyone before you leave should at least adopt one of these, and you can self-select in terms of what you feel should be on the interface or the prototype.
Are you saying we
Are we all designing?
So there's 7 pages essentially, right? Because there's 7 steps. Okay.
So let's suggest that, say, I take 2 scenarios for each workshop are presented on site, and on-site of online. So I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to basically either in Mural or someplace else, I'm going to draw out what I think that step would look like. It can be not the entire page, it can be a micro interaction. It can be just part of the interface where it just showcases that feature. But literally you're drawing out the element or the aspects of what that says on the card. If for the system suggested different types of workshops that have supporting info and agenda, you draw up like what that table would look like, what that interface would look like. And by drawing, I mean, you can sketch it out on paper, you can do it in whatever digital tool that you use, but you are going to break ground on that particular page so that it's not up to the designer and the developer to crank on the prototype and interpret this. And it'll start the conversation when you meet up tomorrow. Plus, it can also, if you want to, this could be something where you kind of use Slack and take what you create and put it in the Slack channel to give like a compare and contrast of what people are doing, so they can also incorporate some elements that you're doing into what they're doing for theirs. So I know it sounds a little ambiguous, but essentially the point is at this point is to self-select one of these particular steps. Like the easiest way to do it is basically just take a post-it note, like a circular one, right below it, and then put your name there, and that's the one that you're going to take on, and then everyone will know that you have that step in the process.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
We have 5 people and 7 steps.
So some people are going to take more than one.
Yep. Okay.
Usually the designer or the developer is the one that takes the ones that are the most valuable, the ones that need 1 or 2 that could be connected. So usually it's the designer that in this case that then says self-declares the pages they want to concentrate on first, and then everybody else kind of follows suit after that.
Okay, so Ian should get first dibs then, I guess.
Yep.
I'm trying to visualize what we setting up here.
It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just basically where you think you want to do a starting point.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Is this different from how we did it in previous sprints?
It is.
Okay.
It's because I wasn't there to kind of help it out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Robert is just trying to confuse us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm doing that weird experimentation stuff.
This is another one
for the great.
If I have a question for the first card, it says select a desired job from the overview.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't ask this at the time, but I did wonder, what is the overview?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, that's basically something to talk about in Slack. If you're not sure, then you can kind of like discuss it there, since we're going offline in a minute.
The other question I have for the prototype is making this visual would be no problem, but making the part interactive on the point we really the part we're really testing should be the most focused. So is there a particular feature or screen we have to focus on for the user test?
I think, I would say the recipes. The recipes need to convince people what they are actually selecting as a next step, facilitated by expert. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Where's the recipe? Is the last or the second to last one, right?
Yeah.
I think the recipes are in the big box in the middle as well to some extent. This is technically a recipe, and then the recipe to do digital or do it online. So you almost could say this is one screen where every scenario is offered in a digital recipe, a virtual recipe, and an on-site recipe. I think this is more the workshop in itself. Maybe this is not even a screen. Maybe this is more.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What happens afterwards? I
Yeah.
think then our job is done. It's I think the effect of surprising them that we really can help them with giving them the right choices for a good briefing or the right tools is where we need to lay our focus on.
Well, again, Ian, you're kind of the designer, so you're putting the focus for the group on this. This is kind of where you take over a little bit.
Okay,
And-
clear.
No pressure.
But the, but the to reiterate the why of why we're doing this is that traditionally in sprints, more often than not, this is when the team hands everything over like a package to the designers and developers to create a prototype that people will react to on Thursday. I found working with voltage control that there's a missed opportunity for everyone to continue the the aligned thinking around the solution when that happens, and then you're putting all the burden on the designer to interpret what's been discussed the past 2 days. So the why for this is to essentially make sure that everyone is still aligned on how this storyboard kind of transforms into an interactive solution, and how people kind of contribute to that will depend on what they're self-selecting with this particular storyboard. Does that make more sense than what I tried to explain before?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, like when I look at this step number 2, like the navigator tool to specify project type and business model, I mean, that's in the mock-up of the solution sketch, right? Like it has that section at the bottom of the first page
You can
that
drag
has the
down,
drop
yeah.
down.
You're supposed to drag down things from the solution sketch or other aspects that you've already drawn. You can just basically like screenshot it and drag it down into this part down here on number 5. So if there's direct correlations to what's already been done in those solution sketches,
Okay.
it's self-explanatory. You aren't reinventing the wheel per se. You're just basically adding on to the low-fi wireframes that were originally done before.
Okay, I'll do that then for that one, just to kind of move this
So
along.
if there's a step in here that's listed out, refer back to this particular solution sketch and see if there's a correlation or something that speaks to it, and then infer from this design. Or if there's not, but you recall something in another solution sketch that has another elegant way of putting it, then put that down in this section and then incorporate it into what you're doing. And then when you start to, right now this is the expanse. This is when you're expanding, including a lot of different possibilities. And when you start to narrow, when you get closer to tomorrow, then you're narrowing down on the selections and choices and interactions you're going to be doing for each page.
So it's like creating components that the designer can then pick up at the components and recombine them.
Yeah, it's like the double diamond, only you're at the second diamond at this point, and you're expanding now instead of contracting. So you're expanding what could be on the page, and then when you contract, you're going to kind of refine it a bit and align it to the solution sketch and storyboard that you have outlined.
So in my mind, it goes information architecture, components, features. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, the features are kind of like the umbrella of everything, but yeah, it's the IA, then it's the kind of like the interactions or the like you're saying, the UI, and then it's going to be, I guess you could say, the UX or the features, the overall.
So we're doing all 3 here.
Right, you're taking a crack at it from your perspective.
Okay.
And kind of exploring that.
I need to go. Sorry, I just saw the time. I'm not totally clear on where or what I need to do. So sorry, I need to get back to work, but I will not.
We'll communicate on Slack.
We got Slack.
Message me and move my bubble around wherever it needs to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
So I'm like, my brain is exploding right now, because when I look at some of these, I'm seeing I'm like overwhelmed. I'm seeing a whole lot that I can imagine on a page.
That's going to be your challenge for the next 24 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeroen, what do you mean with the navigator tool? Is it your part of your feature and your idea, or Sandy's filter?
Yeah, I was thinking again back at that doctor's website, remember, where we talked about the visual navigator. So it's not pull down menus, but trying to find another type of interaction model to deep dive, to go from high level to low level. So a marketing solution, online, web-based, to fulfill these needs, or the other way around. But a kind of a compass or a navigator tool that makes it more visually attractive than just pull down menus.
Yeah, and one thing that happens too is that between like each of these steps, there's going to be some interaction between like the players that have both of these. So you'll have both people like Sandy and Christina kind of like in Slack, kind of going back and forth in terms of how what she's creating will interact with what Sandy does and what Sandy has to prepare what Christina does. So there'll be some back and forth around that. Same thing when Natasha basically is working on her part over here. She's going to be potentially interacting with Christina first and foremost, and maybe with Sandy, but primarily it's going to be those two kind of exchanging information about what the other is doing, and then figuring out, what how those two steps kind of work together.
Okay.
And when it eventually goes to Ian, when he has the whole bundle together, then it's going to be less about him trying to figure out the interaction because it's baked in based on your understanding. It'll be more about streamlining the look and feel and the UX across the entire experience.
Okay.
Make sense?
It does.
Sandy,
Sandy,
are you good?
will you post this recording up? Because I'm going to probably need to listen to this last part again.
Sure. If you know what I can do is I can make a video in Loom after we get off the call before I go to pick up my son, and essentially go repeat what I had just said, so that it's a short blurb that encapsulates what this is, what you're meant to do.
That would be cool.
Mm.
That would be cool.
And you can always watch YouTube.
Yes.
Yes. If you don't want to go back on a recording, you can do it that way too.
There's something about Robert's delivery, though, that my brain seems to understand.
And
I'm glad for that. If it didn't, I'd be like, yeah.
I've created some.
No, that's right.
Oh, there's the robot again.
I'm not in a cave.
There's going to be a time issue here, I think, because when you are, I don't know when you are doing those things, but which is a big help, of course. And when having that, I can start, but I have a full work day tomorrow, so I don't know how to manage to. What do you expect, that I make a prototype tomorrow night, or?
No, I think this is the point where the virtual sprint, where you don't have the designer or whoever doesn't have to feel pressure to get something done by a certain time. I think what you want to do is have this naturally move in a direction where if it needs 48 hours to kind of manifest itself and get to a certain point, or at least like at the least one or two screens, then fantastic. And that really you're looking at Friday as being like the check-in point for the team, and then next week is testing. So it gives you an opportunity to recruit and figure out who you want to talk to, so that you don't feel like you have your pressure to do all that at the same time. So I would suggest kind of walking through this exercise of cross collaboration on each of these screens. And then, Ian, you're kind of acting as like okay, when you get to a stage where you think the page is ready, then they interact with you and then they have a conversation about it. Because what this is also is a learning opportunity for you to kind of showcase your understanding of design, but also to project it onto what people have done, to kind of have them understand what designers typically need to kind of do this work. And for some people that are on the call that already do design, it's a no-brainer. For others that are not in that field, not as intuitive.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to kind of try to like take some time to really explore this and see if there's learning opportunity for everyone involved.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, clear.
Right. So we're 15 minutes over. If anyone's got anything else, say it. Otherwise, when we get out the call, I will immediately do the Loom recording and try to repeat what I had just said.
Cool.
It was a great evening again.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you on Slack.
Okay. See you on Slack.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Great.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye.
Okay,
Ciao.
thanks.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Adios. Mm.